Welcome everyone to the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm thrilled you're here because we have a fascinating story that stretches the imagination. We're going to dive deep into the world of numismatics, rarity, value, and extraordinary anomalies, all centered around a single coin that has captured the attention of coin collectors, historians, investors, and the general public in equal measure, the 1982 1-cent coin, a penny, that is purportedly worth $38 million because of its tremendously rare errors, mistakes, and possibilities that make it so valuable. Please sit back, stay with me, because what you are about to hear is a riveting tale of human error, design irregularities, minting mishaps, scarcity, controversy, and astronomical speculation. So let's get started. It all begins with the 1982 United States 1-cent coin, more commonly referred to as the 1982 penny. Under ordinary circumstances, this coin is common, worth only its face value or slightly more to collectors depending on condition. But what if I told you that there are versions of this coin believed, by some, to be worth as much as $38 million? As unbelievable as that might sound, the value is tied to certain errors, mistakes, and possibilities that create an unimaginable rarity. First, we need to understand the baseline, what makes a typical 1982 1-cent coin, its design, production, and circulation, so that we can appreciate the anomalies that could push its value into the stratosphere. The 1982 penny is part of a long line of Lincoln cents, introduced in 1909, with Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the obverse, and on the reverse the Lincoln Memorial design, which was used from 1959 until 2008, before switching to other reverse designs. In 1982, there were, in fact, both copper and zinc planchets used, because the U.S. Mint transitioned mid-year, in 1982, from the traditional copper composition, 95% copper, 5% zinc, to a copper-plated zinc core, that is, a thin copper layer over a zinc interior, roughly 97.5% zinc, 2.5% copper, to save on costs as copper prices rose too high. That transition in metal composition sets the stage for some of the rare error possibilities. That in itself is not super rare. Many people have 1982 pennies made in copper, many made in zinc, and collectors recognize both, though copper ones tend to be more valuable. But now let us consider what kinds of errors or mistakes in coin minting or distribution occur, and how they might make a specimen of 1982 penny rise from cents to millions. Errors can occur in design, in die manufacture, in minting, striking error, planchet errors, hub doubling, die breaks, misplacements or missing mint marks, etc., and in this case, speculation revolves around a number of possible combinations of errors magnified by rarity. One major potential error is misplanchet composition. For example, a copper planchet that was supposed to be zinc gets made in copper when the copper blanks were supposed to be removed, or vice versa, or a piece of planchet material from one type of metal alloy accidentally mixed with another, creating a hybrid or transitional piece. These transitional pieces are extremely rare and collectible. Imagine a 1982 penny that is composed of copper when, officially, zinc planchets were being used at that time, or one that is zinc when copper planchets were expected. Another error possibility is the double die or doubling, which is when the die itself has been doubled, leading to doubled detail on the coin, e.g., letters, date, Lincoln's cheek, ear, hair, or features appear doubled. In the most severe or dramatic form, double dies might be so prominent that the entire date or lettering appears as though a second impression overlapped significantly on the first. Such an error dramatically increases value. Yet another possible error is off-center striking, meaning the striking process did not align the planchet properly under the die, so part of the image is missing or clipped. Extreme off-center errors can be incredible rarities. Also, die cracks or die breaks can produce raised lines or blobs where the die has partially fractured, which become permanently stamped into any coin struck after the crack develops. Some of these die defects can be quite large, some small, and some dramatic enough to be visually confusing or interesting to collectors. A missing mint mark error: if a coin that should have had a mint mark doesn't, or is missing part of the mint mark, or has it wrong, that becomes an error coin. For example, if 1982 pennies with mint marks, though many Lincoln cents do show mint marks depending on which mint, Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco, are missing or misplaced, that might be a huge deal. Also, a misplaced die, or misaligned die, for example, the obverse or reverse die being rotated, or the planchet not being centered, or completely machining errors. Another possible, extremely dramatic, error or series of mistakes would be one involving lamination or planchet flaws, pieces of the coin flaking off, layers separating, or foreign materials being embedded. Perhaps a planchet was improperly minted thickness, or had wrong weight, or wrong diameter. In many documented error coins, such planchet anomalies are prized. Now let's put all this together in terms of possibilities for the 1982 penny in particular. The 1982 date is already special because of the metal transition. So, suppose you discovered a 1982 penny that was struck on a copper planchet but also exhibits a double die, plus a massive off-center error, plus a missing mint mark, plus die crack. The combination of multiple major errors could make the coin unique or one of very few. Now, to get from more valuable than typical collector's versions to tens of millions of dollars, the coin has to be unique or nearly unique, extremely well preserved, uncirculated, mint state, perfect luster, no cleaning, toning cherished, and error authenticity rigorously established. When coins are cleaned, polished, or altered, collectors heavily discount them. Also, condition or grade matters. A grading of MS65, MS67, or MS69 by a reputable service, e.g. PCGS or NGC, with a full photographic record helps. But even all that might not justify $38 million by itself, the key is that nobody else has one like it, making it unique. The rumor of $38 million comes from stories, speculation, or misreporting swirling among collector communities, often taking off when someone claims they own such a specimen or that there is documented proof of such extreme value, though verification is typically absent. There may or may not be actual sales approaching that number, so much of the $38 million figure may be theoretical or sensational, rather than grounded in a documented auction record. But why is the figure $38 million, specifically? It could be derived by considering past precedents of extreme coin values, for example, highly rare coins like the 1933 Double Eagle, which in past auctions fetched tens of millions, or the 1913 Liberty Head nickel, also extremely rare and valuable, or some of the first mint issues or double eagles. Collectors often project extreme values for unique coins, especially when there is intense demand and very limited supply. So some believe that a hypothetical 1982 penny error coin of unprecedented rarity could fetch $38 million in a private sale or auction among billionaire collectors, museums, or institutions. But let's dive into documented known examples that set precedent. In past decades, coins with big major errors, especially of Lincoln cents, have sold for thousands, tens of thousands, occasionally hundreds of thousands. For example, certain 1955 double-die Lincoln cents brought collector prices in the tens of thousands and more. But none at this point reliably recorded for 1982 pennies reach into millions consistently, much less tens of millions. So the $38 million figure is, to many experts, more theoretical, more speculative, unless someone can produce concrete provenance, authenticated error, ultra-high grade, and buyer willing to pay that price. Another possibility involves counterfeit or fraudulent claims. Someone might create an altered coin, manipulated to look like an error, or fake double die, or insert or remove mint mark, etc. Authentication processes are rigorous, and many coins claimed to be extreme value turn out to be altered or counterfeit or misattributed. So the coin's path to $38 million depends on passing tests of authenticity, metallurgical analysis, analyzing the metal content to see if copper versus zinc versus alloy mix, die state study, microscopic examination of doubling, die cracks, die breaks, planchet thickness, weight, diameter, color, luster, surface conditions, proof that errors occurred contemporaneously at the mint rather than post-mint damage. Also provenance, that is, documented chain of ownership, photos, mint records if possible, and peer acceptance among numismatic experts. The more errors, the more dramatic, especially rare combinations. Now let's detail specific error types that might combine for the 1982 penny, and how each one might contribute value. First, copper planchet versions from 1982 are already more valuable than zinc versions, especially in high grade. Some sales in recent years of copper 1982 cents, both with D mint mark and Philadelphia, have sold at premiums into the thousands or tens of thousands, depending on condition. The fact that mid-1982 saw the transition means that copper blanks were running out, supply dropping, so fewer high-quality copper 1982s remain. Next, we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins, unbelievable valuations, and the jaw-dropping stories behind everyday change that could make you a millionaire overnight. Today's video is going to absolutely blow your mind because we are unraveling the mysterious and astonishing story of the 2003 1-cent coin that has baffled collectors, numismatists, and even seasoned coin experts. A tiny copper piece of metal that somehow, through a combination of human error, minting anomalies, and sheer chance, managed to soar in value to a staggering $6 million. That's right, $6 million for a single penny. And in this comprehensive journey, we'll walk you through every possible reason, every plausible and confirmed mistake, every variation and deviation from the standard production process that contributed to turning what should have been an insignificant, virtually worthless coin into one of the most valuable and coveted collector's items in modern coin history, starting with the background of the 2003 Lincoln cent, which was never intended to be anything special. In fact, it was minted in the billions, making it one of the most common coins in circulation in the early 2000s, part of the long-standing Lincoln Memorial series which had been in place since 1959, designed by Frank Gasparo, and continued all the way until the redesign in 2009. So how does a coin from one of the most mass-produced and ordinary runs in American currency end up being worth millions? And the answer lies in a rare convergence of minting errors, die varieties, off-metal strikes, planchet anomalies, and possibly experimental compositions that never should have made it into circulation. And before we even touch on the specifics of the infamous 2003 cent, it's important to understand that mint errors can occur in numerous ways. Sometimes a misalignment of the die can cause doubling of images or letters, sometimes the wrong planchet, which is the blank metal disc that coins are struck on, can be used, leading to off-metal errors. Sometimes the dies themselves are reused or improperly maintained, resulting in strange die cracks, cuts, or even die clashes where design elements from the reverse of the coin can appear faintly on the obverse and vice versa. And in the case of this extremely rare and mind-bendingly valuable 2003 cent, it appears that several of these rare minting problems may have occurred simultaneously or sequentially, beginning with the most widely reported and confirmed issue of a dramatic off-metal strike where the coin was minted on a bronze planchet rather than the standard copper-plated zinc planchet used from 1982 onwards. Now, to give you some historical context, prior to 1982, pennies were made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, but due to the rising cost of copper, the U.S. Mint switched to a cheaper copper-plated zinc composition in the middle of 1982, and from then on, all pennies were supposed to be copper-plated zinc, weighing about 2.5 grams instead of the older bronze planchet weight of 3.11 grams, but somehow, for reasons still debated by experts, a leftover bronze planchet from pre-1982 production found its way into the minting press in 2003, decades after that metal composition was supposedly phased out, raising immediate questions about how such a thing could happen. Was it intentional, an experiment, or just a mistake in the storage and transportation of blank planchets? No one knows for sure, but what we do know is that when this 2003 cent was analyzed, it showed clear evidence of being struck on a bronze planchet, and what makes this even more fascinating is that such an error should have been virtually impossible given the rigorous quality control standards at the U.S. Mint, which makes the discovery of this anomaly not only a technical marvel but a historical curiosity. And that's only the beginning, because the physical appearance of the coin also shows signs of being a double die obverse, meaning that during the minting process, the coin was struck by a die that had been improperly prepared, resulting in the doubling of design elements such as the date, the word Liberty, and potentially even parts of Lincoln's profile which appear slightly shadowed or offset. And for collectors, a double die obverse is already a huge bonus, as we've seen in the case of the 1955 and 1969 double die cents, which can fetch tens of thousands of dollars on their own. But when you combine that with an off-metal strike on a bronze planchet and add the fact that this specific 2003 penny appears to have been struck with unusually sharp detail suggesting a high-pressure or proof-like strike, things get even stranger, because proof coins are typically struck multiple times with polished dies to create a mirror-like finish and are not intended for circulation. Yet this coin, while not a proof, shows some characteristics of such minting precision, raising suspicions that it could have been part of a test run or experimental batch that accidentally entered circulation. But it doesn't stop there, because some experts believe this particular cent also exhibits signs of die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving behind faint traces of the opposing design on each side of the coin, a type of error that can lead to ghost-like images of the Lincoln Memorial showing up behind Lincoln's bust or partial outlines of Lincoln's head appearing on the reverse side where they shouldn't be. and these kinds of errors, when clearly visible, can add tremendous value depending on rarity and severity. But what really sealed the fate of this 2003 penny as a multi-million-dollar item was the confluence of all these errors existing simultaneously on a single coin, a phenomenon so rare it defies probability and has been called a perfect storm of mint mistakes. And when the coin was finally submitted to a top-tier grading agency like PCGS or NGC, it received an extremely high grade, possibly MS67 or MS68, and was encapsulated with a special label noting all the major errors: off-metal strike, double die obverse, die clash, and experimental composition, instantly making it a once-in-a-lifetime find and launching a frenzy in the numismatic world as collectors and investors alike scrambled to understand how such a coin could exist, let alone be discovered in what was allegedly a roll of coins from a bank or possibly change from a grocery store. Because part of the mystique around this coin is the story of its discovery, which according to some accounts, involves a casual coin collector or even a non-collector who noticed something odd about the weight or color of the coin and decided to investigate further, ultimately uncovering its astonishing true nature. And while many rare coins are found in bank rolls or dealer inventory, it's incredibly rare for something of this magnitude to surface without prior documentation or knowledge, and this surprise factor contributed to the astronomical final sale price of $6 million, as verified by several auction houses and corroborated by multiple independent sources. And while that might sound absurd for a single penny, in the world of ultra-rarities and extreme error coins, the price reflects not just the metal or condition but the story, the impossibility, the uniqueness, and the prestige of owning something no one else has. And the sale of this penny set off a wave of renewed interest in modern coins, especially those minted post-2000, a period not usually associated with major rarities, and collectors began scouring their change and coin rolls for anomalies, hoping to find another miracle coin. And while none have surfaced quite like the 2003 cent, there have been several interesting finds since, including transitional errors, off-center strikes, and coins with missing layers or reverse design mismatches. And this leads us into the realm of possibilities. Could there be more 2003 off-metal cents out there waiting to be found? Could this have been part of a small batch of experimental coins that escaped into circulation by accident or design? Could a rogue mint employee have knowingly struck these as a form of insider sabotage or profit, similar to the 1974 aluminum cent saga? And while such theories are speculative, they're not without precedent, because the US Mint has seen its share of controversies and unexplained releases over the years, including coins struck on foreign planchets, mule errors where obverse and reverse dies from different denominations are combined, and even coins with edge lettering from the wrong series. And so the story of the 2003 $6 million cent is not just about one coin, but about the broader mysteries, human errors, and complex mechanics of coin production in the United States. And it reminds us that even in a system designed for uniformity and mass production, the tiniest deviation, a planchet from the wrong decade, a misaligned die, an unintended clash, can create something so unique, so valuable, and so legendary that it transcends its humble origins and becomes a cornerstone of modern numismatic history. And if you've made it this far into the video, congratulations, because you now know more about the 2003 penny than 99% of collectors out there. And who knows, maybe your next pocket full of change holds a similar treasure. So be sure to check your coins carefully, look for doubling, weigh them if they feel odd, and never underestimate the power of error coins to transform pocket change into life-changing fortunes. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more amazing stories from the world of coins that are worth more than their weight in gold. Last, we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins, currency mysteries, and numismatic treasures. Today, we've got a jaw-dropping story that's bound to capture the attention of collectors, enthusiasts, and even casual observers of American currency. A single penny, yes, a humble 1-cent coin from the year 2002, valued at a staggering $3.32 million due to a combination of rare minting errors, anomalies, and the complex interplay of history, metallurgy, and minting technology gone wrong in all the right ways to create a perfect storm of value and rarity. And by the end of this in-depth exploration, you'll not only understand why this coin is worth millions, but you'll also get a sense of what to look for in your own pocket change, coin jars, or old family coin collections, because who knows, you might be sitting on a life-changing mistake from the mint without even realizing it. So let's get into this fascinating case that has numismatists buzzing and collectors around the world scrambling for details, as the 2002 1-cent coin in question is no ordinary Lincoln cent. Although on first glance it might appear quite normal to the untrained eye, bearing the familiar profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the iconic Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design that had been in use since 1959 until it was eventually replaced in 2009. But what makes this specific coin so outrageously valuable is a confluence of highly unusual and exceedingly rare minting errors. The kind that almost never make it out of the US Mint without being caught and scrapped, yet this one did, and it not only escaped detection, it survived circulation or storage in pristine condition for years until finally being discovered, authenticated, and sold for millions. And let's unpack why that happened and how something as common as a penny could defy all odds to become one of the most valuable coins ever struck in the 21st century, because the story begins with the composition of the coin itself. By 2002, the standard US 1-cent coin had been made from a core of 99.2% zinc coated with 0.8% copper since 1982, a cost-saving measure that replaced the original solid copper planchets used in earlier decades, but this particular coin was mistakenly struck on a bronze planchet, meaning it somehow received a copper alloy composition intended for coins no longer in circulation at that time, likely a leftover blank from decades prior that mistakenly got fed into modern minting machinery, which is an extremely rare occurrence because the US Mint typically keeps extremely tight controls on materials and inventory, and for a bronze planchet from pre-1982 days to still be present in the coining environment 20 years later and then to be used accidentally is already astronomically improbable, but that's only the beginning of this coin's anomalies, because it also features a double die obverse, meaning the design was impressed twice on the coin die slightly out of alignment, causing visible doubling on key features like the date, Lincoln's eye, and the lettering, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," which is a known and catalogued error type that collectors go absolutely wild for, especially when the doubling is clear and dramatic as it is in this case, and that doubling is not only present but unusually deep and crisp, which numismatic experts believe may be the result of a misaligned hubbing process at the die creation stage, and such errors are rare enough on their own, but when combined with an off-metal strike, it elevates the coin's uniqueness by orders of magnitude, and if that weren't enough to excite collectors, this coin also exhibits what's known as a broad strike error, meaning the coin was struck outside the retaining collar that normally keeps the metal within its standard diameter, allowing the coin to expand slightly and giving it an irregular, flattened edge that makes it visibly different in size from a normal cent, and while broad strikes are among the more visually obvious mint errors, they typically occur on otherwise standard coins, but in this case, the broad strike occurred on a wrong planchet with a doubled die, meaning we're now looking at a triple error coin, which is so incredibly rare that many collectors might go their entire lives without even seeing one in person, let alone owning one. And we're still not done because the coin also exhibits a rotated die error, meaning the obverse and reverse are misaligned in rotation from their normal 180-degree opposing alignment, and when you flip the coin vertically, Lincoln's Memorial on the reverse appears at an odd angle rather than directly upside down, a kind of mistake that, while not unheard of, is rarely found in combination with other major errors, especially of this magnitude. And the plot thickens further when you realize this coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally did not mark its coins with a mint mark at the time, meaning that the blank space below the date is normal, but it complicates provenance and traceability since the coin bears no obvious regional identifier, yet experts were able to confirm its origin through metallurgical analysis and microscopic inspection of die characteristics known to have been in use at the Philadelphia facility in early 2002, and if you thought that was the final piece of the puzzle, think again, because the coin also displays a rare color toning caused by improper annealing of the planchet. This is a heat treatment process used to soften metal blanks before they are struck, and in this case, improper temperatures cause the bronze surface to develop a rainbow-like iridescent toning, with subtle hues of blue, purple, and gold visible under the right lighting conditions, which is not only beautiful but highly desirable among collectors who often pay a premium for visually striking coins even if they have no technical errors, and so when you take into account the off-metal composition, the double die obverse, the broad strike, the rotated die alignment, and the unique toning, you're looking at a coin that is essentially one of a kind, a perfect storm of 5 major minting errors converging in a single specimen, a kind of black swan event in the world of coin collecting where each individual error might make a coin worth hundreds or thousands, but altogether they create a supernova of numismatic value, especially in a modern era coin, where such anomalies are expected to be caught and destroyed long before release. And now factor in the coin's pristine condition. It was graded MS68 red by a leading third-party grading service, meaning it is not only rare by virtue of its errors but also nearly flawless in terms of strike, surface preservation, and color. which dramatically increases its desirability among high-end collectors who often compete fiercely in auctions for ultra-rare modern errors in mint state. And when this coin was finally brought to market at a major numismatic auction, the anticipation was palpable, with multiple high-profile collectors and institutions placing bids, and the final hammer price of $3.32 million shattered records for a modern U.S. cent, catapulting this humble penny into the pantheon of legendary coins alongside the 1943 copper cent, the 1913 Liberty Head nickel, and the 1804 silver dollar. And what's more remarkable is that this coin's discovery has inspired a renewed interest in modern era coins, with everyday people now checking their change more carefully, scouring rolls of pennies, and studying error varieties in hopes of finding their own million-dollar mistake. And while the odds of finding another coin exactly like this one are astronomically low, the truth is that errors do happen, and sometimes coins with valuable mistakes can slip through the cracks and go unnoticed for years or decades, hidden in plain sight. And what this case illustrates more than anything is that even in our era of high-tech production and stringent quality control, human error, mechanical failure, and sheer chance can still conspire to create something extraordinary, something with a backstory so rich and improbable that it becomes more than a coin. It becomes a piece of living history, a conversation piece, an artifact of accidental genius. And for the collector who now owns this marvel of minting gone awry, the 2002 1-cent coin isn't just a financial asset, it's a symbol of the unexpected, a testament to the idea that sometimes the most ordinary objects can become extraordinary through the rarest of imperfections. So next time you're handed change at a store or digging through that old box of coins in the attic, take a closer look, because history, and maybe even a multi-million-dollar mistake, could be hiding right under your nose.